Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave. We've reached the final show of the first run of King Crimson. For some people the final show of the definitive period. Maybe, is it? Don't know. Collectors Club number 10. It's an audience recording, sorry. For that reason, Great Deceiver and things like that are more definitive. The question is, do bands play better when they're not recorded? This is a hugely significant, prestigious concert that they played, and it was the big one. Fripp talks about feeling the presence of King Crimson, that whatever that is, he felt it there for the first time since the original band, actually. And it's definitely a really good show, what we can hear of it anyway. But it is actually very well recorded, so that's okay. It's interesting how bands play better when they're not being recorded. Of course, they were being recorded, actually, illegally. But maybe whatever mindset they're in at that particular time is affected if they know they're being recorded. It may have been that they didn't really think about bootlegs. They just knew they weren't recording. I think even more so when people are filmed. You can't help but know that you're being filmed, and that has an effect on your performance. So maybe that's one of the reasons why this is considered a better performance. If we fast forward considerably to Montreux 2003, that was actually filmed, being Montreux, and it was part of their whole the festival there. It was filmed for them, and there's an agreement about ownership of the recording goes back to them after a certain amount of years, etc, etc. Asia Blue reckons that's their worst show from the 94 group onwards. That's what happens when you film. Not only that, apparently they had some guy flashing camera deliberately because he knew it was having an effect, he was doing it more and things like that. So it's never been released on video. I think it's been released for download, but yeah, that's for another time. Now, Central Park 73 we actually have video of, and it's hugely significant because we have so little from 73 actually. The stuff we have is only from very late 73. We've got Larks, Tongs and Aspic recorded in January, and then in the summer we've got Central Park 73 video snippet. It's only a bit, it's an improvisation, and it's a bit half of Easy Money, and that's it. And it is excellent. It's interesting how bombastic the playing is. Fripp does this fast picking stuff, this shredding sort of kind of stuff, which he didn't quite do like that any other time. So it's interesting how that's different, and now this performance is head and shoulders above that. Definitely the improvisation, there's only one, is head and shoulders above it. Why didn't they record it? Well, supposedly there was a buzz over the PA, and there was discussion about whether they'll play the show or not, and Fripp was like, well, probably not. That may be why. Well, they didn't record it, but they went ahead with the show because it was a big deal and everything, and I'm sure they're glad they did, because supposedly magic happened. The sound is excellent for a 74 audience recording. It is excellent. Obviously, I imagine it's been tweaked however much it has been. Definitely better than Zoom Club 72, which was our previous audience recording. Obviously, we haven't needed audience recordings for a long time because everything's been recorded, except this one. But it's interesting to discuss that because obviously it is the King Crimson thing to record every show. But perhaps if you're recording every show, it kind of doesn't matter, because you don't think about it then if you're always being recorded, I suppose, maybe. This is the right set list. They've got the set list right, right at the end. This is the proper one, which is what it should be. The only thing I would say is that there's no night watch, and there's only one improvisation. It's quite an abridged show. You can tell that they're probably playing to a time limit, I think, but they get it all in there, and the proper structure of how it should be. Opening with Schizoid Man, ending with Larks, Tongs Part 2, and Starless proceeding talking drum, as it should. You could argue that there's a thing about the sound that the Wenton era tapes, so the blue tapes and whatever goes before those or after those, they've got real clarity, and I really like clarity. I'm big on that, but it's not very in your face. You compare it to how people record guitar these days. It all has to sound the same. It all has to sound like Metallica, and obviously it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound big, and you could argue a bit more bigness adds to the vibe of the sound, and this kind of has more bigness from the booming PA sound, which helps the vibe in some ways. Obviously I still prefer a proper recording, but it does help. Red sounds big in a way that a lot of stuff doesn't. I think some bands lend themselves well to being recorded on bootleg, and obviously there's the vibe of the sound flying around a PA like that and horrible distortion and everything gives it this atmosphere. There's other bands, I think Led Zeppelin really benefit from bootleg recordings because it irons out all the dodgy bits that the fans aren't aware of or weren't aware of at the time. No announcements at all, nothing like that, no amusing stuff from Fripp. They just whiz through the songs as quick as they can, one improvisation. The question is it particularly a good show? Is the actual playing particularly good playing? It's certainly a good one. Is it overwhelmingly the best one? It's difficult to say because we can't hear it properly. It would be easy to do that as well if I didn't know the significance of it before I'd heard it, because of course it was like, it's Central Park. It's that one that everyone's read about. But it's definitely an on night, so that's fine. That's all you need. So we open with Walk On No Pussyfooting. It is on the recording, which is nice. There's definitely a buzz on the PA. I don't know if when they're playing you can't hear it because they're playing, or maybe it goes away, I don't know. But there it is. And into 21st Century Schizoid Man, which it kind of feels like that's what they should have opened with in the first place. That's the definitive set list. Obviously when they're playing so many nights in a row, it's very grueling. Obviously they're going to move the set around a bit. So it is fair enough, yeah. But it works fantastically at the start. And it also means they've got that out of the way, so the audience aren't waiting for Schizoid Man. Sometimes they wouldn't get it. They're just enjoying the music. The bit I noticed actually is John Wenton. He's kind of letting rip a bit more than usual. Possibly a bit nervous, but really going for it. Kind of parallel with Hyde Park, actually. In that I think Lake's performance was a bit more shouty. I think Lake's performance was measurably actually not as good in a way, whereas this, I won't necessarily say that. Don't know. Anyway, next song is Lament. It's a noisy version. Mellotron is a bit over the top of the end. I'm not sure it's completely in tune. I'm sure it's very rarely in tune. And then we've got Exiles, which starts with, well, technically, and it might have been billed as an improvisation on another disc actually, where you've got some dissonant drones and some feedback. And it's not clear whether that's just feedback or whether they're actually doing it musically, because it sounds great actually. Into the build up into Exiles. When the main theme comes in on the violin, it's a fantastic moment. Whether that's because of the sound or not is the question. But yeah, I mean, we've heard that once or twice before. What do you want me to say? I'm kind of glad there isn't a night watch on here as well. Then we have the improvisation. It's called Cerberus. It's the pretty stuff, the sustain, the frip sustain and all that stuff. It's the Chinese thing. It's big on the Chinese thing, but with heavy rolls from Bill. So that's quite cool. It's quite a good one. Of course, then it all goes mental, as you do. Just to be controversial, but it's funny how the noisy bit made me think of The Waiting Room by Genesis, actually. I think this is much better than that. The King Crimson are much better improvisations, but there's a bit of that in there. This is 74, so whether they'd heard it or whether this is when Genesis heard this, maybe they were there and they heard it. Maybe. And they cut a hole in the sky, and the sky falls down, and it's amazing. At the end, it's fantastic, brilliant improvisation. Such a shame it wasn't recorded. But then, of course, if it was recorded, would it be the same, etc. It goes back into the pretty, but with the rhythm. There's a proper structure to the improvisation. That's great. And we go straight into Easy Money. Very noisy verse. We may have heard this before as well, once or twice. I'm not convinced a lot happens in the middle, but at the same time you can't really hear it, so don't know. And right then, Easy Money. We go straight into Fracture. So I'm assuming they're on a time limit, and this is a festival, so that, they're sticking to their time limit very well. It's very tight. Maybe that made them play better. It could have just been that they wanted to have a real effect. They really wanted to make a real bang, and to do that they just shoot through the songs. No other show is so hurried from this lineup. The thing about Fracture is it is generally always much the same, and only fans can spot differences. And it's Bill really who can vary it, because Fripp is trapped. He can't get out of that trap. And Cross and Wetton really they can only let rip at certain points. So it's down to Bill, and Bill does it differently every time actually, but you've got to listen out for it. Obviously this recording isn't the best time to be doing that. And then we have Starless. Now we know this is a special Starless, it's been talked about, I think when the sun went down, and whether the sound is helping rather than unforgiving soundboard, it sounds great. It does sound like a fantastic Starless. Fripp is on it. The light and shade is very big, again that could be the recording. Suddenly the solos are just distortion, you can't really hear. The guitar solo, which is a one of those, but the violin solo as well, you can't really hear it, it's just distorted. And then we have, finally, track 9 and 10, the definitive expression of crimsonness, the Talking Drum and Larks Tongues Part 2. Two last songs of the last show. Talking Drum, there's some wild stuff in there. It is a heavy version of Talking Drum. I wonder if that was the best they ever performed it, obviously we can't really tell. Generally it's the Copenhagen, Talking Drum is the one, generally. And Larks Tongues and Aspic Part 2, which is good, it's a very good piece of music. And there it is, and they perform it. And the last song of the last show. There you go. See you next week, finally, for Red.